Oh yeah.
YouTube, what is up? We are back with another day, and it's a short one today. We got league night in just over an hour, and we're gonna be in and out today. Body is feeling good through these warm-ups, and I think we might be able to pull something pretty sweet in the snatches. Okay, got some heavy snatches programmed for us, but if we're cooking, we're just gonna send it. We're gonna start with some snatch balances in that squatted position, same thing we've been building up, staying consistent there. Then we got the suicide snatches. You guys are probably sick of seeing those two warm-ups. But honestly, I've been loving the feel of them. I've been loving the consistency of them and just continuing to get that feel and dial in those feels. Then we got some heavy snatches and we got some thrusters to finish up. And K-Dot's really hammering that overhead position. We started today off with that preacher stretch, some dead hangs, and some PVC pipe weighted dislocates, 3 sets of 10 there. And the body's feeling pretty primed. We got 2 softball tournaments this weekend. We're playing Friday, Sunday with the team at Panel Prague. And then Saturday, I have a charity tournament I gotta go to. So we're going to the charity tournament on Saturday, hopefully get the dub there and hopefully come out of the weekend as 2-time champs. Swing's been feeling dialed. We had BP earlier this morning, and I'm kind of pumped that all things are clicking. We are going to Hawaii in just under a week. It's where the girlfriend's from, and we got a little bachelor-style hometown visit, so we got to dial in the diet this week and show up pretty shredded there. But without further ado, let's get after today. Let's go. All right, so we're starting off today, 4 sets of 5 of the squatted snatch balances here. Overhead position's feeling pretty spicy after those PVC pipe dislocates today. And those PVC pipe dislocates, I've really been trying to keep my whole hand on the bar while I rotate through. When I was starting them, it was super wide and I could only get my pinky on there. And as we've been starting to open up, I've been keeping that whole hand squeezed and working all the way through. Really, honestly, the biggest thing is not feeling like my shoulders right now. It's a lot of elbow tightness here, and I know where that's from. It's from softball. And just the overuse of the gripping here. It's like my forearms are just right here. It's just a ball of fascial mess in there. And it really feels like the rate limiting factor on these, but as it's starting to open up, those arms are getting straighter, and we're getting more overhead on these snatches, and that overhead position's coming along. I actually just watched a video on Zach Tallender. There's like a video from 12 years ago, and it popped up on my YouTube algorithm, and I watched it, and I have not been added more. I'll link the video in the description here, but it was talking about how a lot of times the reason that you're catching the bar so far forward many times isn't strictly a mobility issue. It can be a mobility issue, and it for sure is for me, but a lot of times it's that timing issue and that bar getting way out in front of you, and that's really what we're dealing with those suicide snatches that we have next. But it's kind of cool just listening to like expert coaches in this sport like pinpoint you and call you out without ever meeting you. I was like, God damn, he's absolutely talking about exactly the issue I have, and hopefully we can get that fixed today. The big thing he was talking about was letting those wrists, is actively pulling with those hands and wrists and keeping tension there to keep that bar close. He was talking about when you're catching that bar in front, he can almost guarantee that your wrists are limp. And I went and watched all of my snatches, and almost every time that wrist is coming out and that bar is getting out in front. So we're gonna think about actively pulling those wrists in on our way up and keeping that bar close. And we're gonna see if that can help. He talked about how it keeps a better position to be able to get up in that upright row position and keep it vertical, which I feel like I really struggle with. And that makes sense when I have that wrist out there. It's really hard to like kind of keep those shoulders here. Even when you just pull it up, you can get those shoulders in a much better position. So we're gonna drill that today. We're gonna rush through these 4 sets of 5 here, make a little montage. Let's get it. All right, we got our final set here, and he's feeling pretty good at the bottom of that squat. So hopefully it stays that way. Last couple weeks has been really bugged when I was getting into deep flexion, but haven't felt anything like that. And so that's a really good feeling. Real litmus test will be cleans tomorrow, seeing how it handles 300 plus pounds at the bottom of that catch. But right now it's still feeling significantly better even with this weight. Let's get this, let's go. Let's go. All right, now we got 3 sets of 5 of these suicide snatches. Again, my goal is gonna be keeping active tension with the hands. That's what Tellender was talking about, how a lot of times you just get loosey-goosey with the hands and you think you wanna keep loose and long arms, which was what I was thinking about when I was really doing the pull, and he was talking about that's kind of a myth, and trying to keep tension and pulling that bar into the hips on the way down, on the way up, and we're gonna try and keep that as vertical as possible. So let's rip here. All right, obviously those were a little bit clunky and forced. That was kind of the whole goal of those, was just keep that active hand tension and pull up. It wasn't necessarily to make it smooth and fluid. And I think sometimes that gets lost in a lot of drills, a lot of exercises, especially when you get to like the sports performance world and you're actually practicing skill acquisition. And something that I think can get a little messed up when you're really in the skill acquisition world, you're really in that representative model of sports performance as you start to think everything has to be applicable, everything has to be game-like and specific. And I think you totally just miss out on the feel piece of some things and trying to force a feel and then going into something a little bit more representative, which in the case of Olympic lifts is obviously going from something like this into a regular snatch. But even in like the sporting world, like a lot of times doing something wrong in the sporting world or forcing a certain movement. One of the things I've been hitting with this conference guy a couple times a week, and one of the things he told me when I was trying to really push a ball down the line is try to hit the ball as foul on the right field line as possible and really force that. And he's like, hit it like 40 feet foul, and then we'll eventually draw it in to hitting the line. But he really wanted me to drill that feel of pushing a ball as far as possible and then adjusting to something a little bit more representative with live pitching. And this is a guy that's not a coach in the strength conditioning world, in the sports performance world. He has probably heard nothing about the differential learning models or the constraint-led approach or any of that stuff. It's just somebody that has taken millions of reps at the sport and just kind of intuitively knows that and intuitively knows the importance of feels when it comes to exercises. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to drill in that feel and then bring it into something a little more representative. Obviously, you can get way too far into the field thing and way too far into these fancy drills and never go representative, and that obviously is something that's messed up. But I really do believe there's a balance there too. Finding that feel, biasing that feel in the same way you would do like an ISO, where if you want to feel a legging muscle on a certain lift, you could pre-fatigue it with an isometric so that you feel that muscle activate and you feel what it feels like for that muscle to contract, and then you go into the main lift and allow it to activate and allow it to move the way that it's supposed to move. You can do the same thing in the skill acquisition world of biasing something in a drill that really is not representative of the sport or the task you're trying to do, and then bringing that feel in to something that is representative. And it's just something I don't think is talked about enough. I think feel is really important for athletes, and it really can accelerate skill acquisition, especially if you do bring it into a representative model after that. So let's get after these, let's go. All right, since this is probably the last set before the tarps come off, I want to make a little plug for these shirts since I get a question asked a lot. If you want a little Arms for Moms merch or you want any Yoakum Strength merch, go to the Instagram bio, and I got a JST clothing app in there. I don't make any money off the shirts. The price is so high because it's all drop shipped from the website. It's a pretty cool website. It's Bonfire. You kind of like edit anything and then just ship it. You can make some money off of it, but like their per shirt cost is much higher than if you just ordered it in bulk, but I don't really want to ship anything. I made that mistake with these hats. It's an absolute pain in the ass to figure out how to ship and pack everything at a reasonable cost. But if you want one of these dope shirts and you want to represent the JST brand, the link's in the bio on the JST clothing. Go get some. Let's go. Ooh, there we go. That felt really nice. Let's get some snatches. All right, now we got some snatches. We got 2 sets of 2 at 210 pounds, and we got 2 sets of 1 at 210 to 220 pounds. We'll stay more conservative on those 2 sets of 2 to just make sure the 2s are actual 2s and I'm not doing a full reset in between. I really like the feel of those touch and go 2s the other day. I'm gonna try and keep and hold on to that. And then the 2 sets of 1, we're gonna try and get after and see how we do today. And hopefully we'll make it clean. So let's build up to there, let's go. All right, all those warm-up sets felt really, really sexy, except that last one. I think I just took a little bit too much of a jump and then was unfocused going into it. But we got 2 sets of 2 here at this weight, and we got 2 sets of 1 at 220 plus. So let's rip, let's get it. God damn, that second rep is fucking tough, but bar's flying, let's go. All right, and trying to keep those wrists tight. My starting position was super shit. I was like fucking bent over all the way there thinking I was pulling those wrists in. Gotta stay tall and then still pull those wrists in and keep that. And I think it's gonna feel much better. Let's bring a little intent to this bar now, let's go. Holy fuck, that second rep's a meathead rep. Those are fucking tough. Let's get to some singies. All right, we got 215 on the bar. Let's rip it. Oh my God. That bar flew. All right, to stick to program, we got one set at 220 here. And if this is cooking, we'll just keep adding weight until we can't. Or we'll try to keep it clean today. We'll try not to miss anything today. Let's get it. Goddamn, a little sloppy, but the bar's still moving. Let's hit 225. All right, 225 in the bar. Let's keep it clean. Let's rip. Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah, we're gonna call it there. We'll hit our snatch balances tomorrow with our cleans. We gotta run the softball, but we're gonna rant about injuries in the car. Let's go. All right, YouTube, that was a pretty solid snatch day. I really like the feel of those arms and hands having tension on them. It got a little sloppy when it got heavier, but especially for snatching 2 days earlier and going pretty heavy and hitting a PR on those touch and goes. The bar wasn't moving at the speed that I would totally like, but that 225 kind of flew up in a nice fluid manner, and all the reps before that were super solid, so pretty happy with that. And gonna take that as a win today. A little bit rushed on my lifting schedule. My lifting schedule's pretty jacked up. From the 4th of July, where we fell behind a couple days and had to make that up earlier in this week. And then yesterday was supposed to be today, and today was supposed to be tomorrow, but I had really bad night terrors. I've never had nightmares or night terrors, and typically don't remember my dreams really well, but I've been taking that Hyperzine A a couple times a week, just like Chad Silly recommended, and the recovery and the sleep from it have been pretty wicked, and the dreams have been amazing. But 3 times now I've taken it and had terrible night terrors, and woken up in the middle of the night feeling like there's like a demon on top of me. It's been pretty messed up. But yesterday I got all of 2 hours of sleep, so we pushed back that lift to today, and we had a pretty solid night of sleep, but a little bit weird there and not ideal. But we're gonna get all our lifts in and still get after it. We leave for Hawaii on Tuesday next week, and we'll be there for a week. I'm hoping to get a lift in Hawaii, wake up early, and go there. I'm assuming I'm gonna be all sorts of jacked up from that jet lag, especially since flights already messed me up, and the longest flight I've been on has been like a 3-hour flight. So this like 15-hour flight to Hawaii is really gonna jack me up, and I get terrible motion sickness. So if you're sitting next to me on this plane, I feel bad for you, because let's pray to God I don't throw up. But one of the things I wanted to talk about and kind of rant about today is injuries and pain. We have a lot of athletes that come into us 1 day a week. I don't claim them as my athletes. They really just come in for game day and get the environment in, and they come in with their friends, and we call them one-dayers at the gym. Typically, they lack a little bit of commitment in their lives. But a lot of these one-dayers will come in with pain and injuries in quotations. Nothing's really messed up with them. They can play the game just fine. But it comes to a lift, it comes to a squat, it comes to anything like that, and they talk about how they can't do it because they have this injury, they have a knee injury, they have a back injury, and they can't do it. And then after the games, all they do is pretty much just sit and talk around, which I'm fine with if you're not really training for anything and you're just going for the games and going to go hang out with your friends in the morning. But what kind of irks me is these guys come in complaining about these injuries, talking about how much in pain they are and how many things they can't do. And then when it comes to doing actual things that can help them with these injuries and help them with this pain, they don't fucking do it. They sit there and bitch about the injuries and bitch about the things they can't do, rather than thinking about the things they can do and thinking about the ways that they can train and give their body stimuluses to help and heal those injuries. And I really think it's a psyops that they've fallen into with the whole like functional training to be healthy, training for longevity type approach that really fucks their brains and really keeps them injured for so much longer than they need to be injured, and keeps them in pain for so much longer than they need to be in pain, because they don't do anything about the pain. They just accept the pain and keep the pain, and they really start to dwindle down the things that they do and kind of create this self-fulfilling prophecy of having an injury that they believe keeps them from doing things. Then they stop doing things, then they actually become incapable of doing things. And I see this brutal cycle over and over again. And it's kind of sad, because I know it's like a mind virus in their brain that was put in there by somebody else. And again, I'm only working with these athletes 1 day a week, so it's really tough to break them out of that mind virus. And honestly, typically it's really not worth my time with a lot of these athletes, because they just lack discipline and a little bit of mental toughness, unfortunately. But the fact of the matter is, at some point you have to train through pain. You have to train through injuries if you want to get better. And that's not saying make the injury worse. It's not saying be a meathead. I know I'm definitely on the opposite end of the spectrum, and I could definitely use a little bit more rest. And there's definitely time where rest and recovery can be beneficial. But so many times rest and recovery are pushed as this like magic cure, to where that rest and recovery approach that is helpful just turns into avoidance and becoming untrained and incapable. The perfect example is we had 2 guys, we were playing spike ball at the end of the lift, and we had one guy that has a sore knee. He was doing like a front flip. He's like a parkour type athlete. He was doing a front flip on his own. felt like he jacked his knee up like 3 months ago. And he avoids every single thing that moves and trains the knee that could give it a stimulus to make it better, and continually stays hurt and in pain. And during this spike ball game, he was playing against two guys, myself and another guy, that actually have ACL tears in our knees. Actually have an injury, actually have things wrong structurally with the knee. And the one guy that I was playing with that actually has the ACL tear was telling him like, hey dude, like I have an ACL tear, I have a meniscus tear. Like maybe, and I'm training fully, like maybe we need to change our thought process and philosophy when it comes to training so that we can get that knee healthy. And his response was, you know, in this day and age, we can just get surgery and fix that. And it was just such an eye-opening experience of you have somebody that actually has an injury, actually has something structurally wrong with the knee, is training around it, getting better, is 100% with a torn ACL, and pushing PRs, jumping higher, sprinting faster, lifting more weights. And his mind virus is so strong that he, with just a knee that bugs him, is incapable of doing things and is at 70% and has been at 70% for the last 3 months. And I just looked at him, I'm like, hey dude, maybe we listen to the dude that is back training 100% and setting PRs with a torn ACL and not listen to your thought process that is obviously not working. So I don't really know where I'm going with that rant, other than the fact of eventually you gotta get to a point in which you break out of that mind virus and you understand that pain does not equal inability, and pain does not equal the acceptance of being unable to do things. Pain just means that you need to give your body stimulus and you need to train to get to a point in which you are out of pain, and training 100% can do that for you. Providing your body stimulus to strengthen and level up that body part can 100% get you out of pain much faster than sitting there whining about the pain in and of itself. And again, it's just a frustrating thing with some of these athletes because nobody actually wants to be in pain. They actually think these thought processes are correct. They actually think these philosophies are correct. But at some point you have to look at the data points that are in front of you that are showing you that your thought processes and your philosophies are not correct, no matter who told you that or where you read that what you're doing is correct. Look at the data points in front of you, look at the real life situations in front of you, and go get better. Go heal yourself. Stop using your pain and injuries as an excuse to not train hard, and stop allowing those pains and injuries to become a self-fulfilling prophecy of becoming somebody that is incapable of doing things. You're not incapable. Your body is beyond powerful enough to recover from those things if you just allow it to. And a lot of that is a thought process and a mindset, not in a philosophical way of just thinking that way is going to cure you, but in the thought process of if you think that way, you are going to do much more productive things in your training that allow you to heal and allow you to get back on the field of play and allow you to get back to life pain-free and more capable than you were before, which should be everybody's goal. So just a little rant on injuries there. I appreciate you guys watching. We'll be back with cleans tomorrow. I'm rolling in the league right now. Let's go hit some nukes. Keep chopping wood.